louder because for some reason, I guess this headphone. Well, you know what? Let me try another set of headphones that I have right here because
Okay.
this one, for some reason, only one is working. I hardly be using this computer or headphones for any fact because at work I'm just in my zone with the other computer. So let me see if this works.
We good? Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you at all.
Okay, as long as you talk to me a little louder, I guess I will be okay because I can
All right.
only hear you through one side.
All right. We are joined live this hour by Janet Gonzalez, who is a poet, a writer, business owner, all kinds of things in the city of Los Angeles. Really, really excited to have you here this hour. Janet, before we start talking about your poetry, can you tell us a little bit how you got started? How did you get started going to venues and more of the early days? What they look like?
Oh, my early days, it was back in 2007, I believe, 2000, probably even earlier than that. Um, yeah, like around 2005. Um, I used to work in Inglewood in an auto body shop. Um, and traffic to go home was horrible. It used to take me almost 2 hours to get home to Artesia. And there was a Starbucks nearby, Magic Johnson Starbucks. So I started going there, and every Wednesday they used to have open mic, and that's where I bumped into and fell in love with Nikki Black. Um, so that's where my poetry, uh, my love for poetry started, like really as an adult, because um, I used to read poetry back in third grade and compete with different schools in Mexico, but it was always reading somebody else's poetry. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I fell in love with Nikki Black. That's how I came into poetry.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Nikki, but before we do that, can you talk about that venue at the Magic Johnson Starbucks? It's kind of for those who don't know, because we're trying to get this out to a wide variety of people, so maybe not everyone's familiar with it. So can you tell us about that open mic there?
So you're talking about who I was then?
No. Who hosted the open mic? What was the open mic there at the Magic
Okay, so
Johnson?
it was a group of three beautiful black women. I'm trying. It was Alice the poet. Ooh, Jesus, it was so long ago. Um, I can't remember, Matt. Now you're putting me on the spot. Um, it was Alice the poet, and oh my God, I can't remember. I'm so
Tell us about Alice.
sorry. They were just three like bring power to the people type of fucking warriors. They were just amazing, and just the way that they deliver their poetry, it was I really feel that that was like my first experience with poetry in English per se. um and yeah, like when I heard Nikki, like I was already invested with these three women, right? um, and I was experiencing something that me as a Latina had never heard. Like now it was about empowering their people and just pretty much like fuck the system type of poetry. And um, it was empowering, even though I'm not black. Like I identified with what they were saying. I identified with the struggle that they talked about. um, and it was it was amazing. It was like I don't even know how to explain it. It made me want to go home and write. Like all I had ever written about was my little boyfriends or whatever when I was young, um, and they made me want to go home and write. So I did. I started writing, and when I saw Nikki, I went up to her, and I was like, "I'm in love. Like I want to be your friend." And I really felt like a little girl in a playground going to ask somebody like I think that we have lost that, and I didn't. That day I didn't care. I went up to her and I was like, I want to be your friend. Like, and she was like, all right. Bro, she was like, who the fuck is this fucking, little Mexican girl or whatever. But she befriend me, and she was an amazing mentor. Like whenever I would write, I will bring her my poems, and then she introduced me to some of her friends. Judy Holiday, she's an awesome writer as well, and Judah, like she's the one that got me to go to Mike and Dim Lights and meet all those amazing poets that were, in the scene when I met you, actually, around the time that I met you. So yeah, like she opened my horizon. She opened my world into poetry, and like I will forever be grateful to her. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Nikki Black. Tell us a little bit more about like not just a relationship, but who is Nikki Black and what does she represent?
So Nikki Black is, to me, and I know to a lot of people in the poetry community, she is one of the, for me, is one of the best poets in LA and probably the States. She is a champ, like a slam champion of few years in different places, not only in LA, but San Diego, I believe. Um, she is an accomplished writer. She has about 5 books, I believe. So you should get them. Let me plug that in. Um, but yeah, she, see, this is.
There we go, right there.
um, so to me, she is one of the best writers in LA, and she is a super like close friend of mine. Even though we don't see each other that often, she does have a child, and I own a business. So, but when we see each other, it's always awesome. Um, so yeah, she's an activist. Uh, she is a mother. She is a fucking badass. So yeah, like look her up. I really encourage people that are into poetry to look her up on YouTube, on Facebook. Her name is spelled Nikki Nikki Black Blak. So if you want to hear some good ass poetry, like go ahead and listen to her.
Yeah. So can you share a poem with us of your own?
One of her poems, you mean?
One of yours.
Oh, one of mine.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this quarantine, um, it had been a long time since I written. Actually, a couple years. My mother came to live with me when she was very ill, and the pressure of owning a business, trying to handle a marriage, and trying to take care of a loved one that is super ill would take your energy and drain you. So I kind of stopped writing. And in this quarantine, even though I'm not per se in the quarantine because I do go out to work every single day. We are an essential business. I own an auto body shop. Um, when I get home, I don't have nowhere to go. So I have secluded and tried to like put my thoughts into paper. And I've been dealing with my garden. I've been gardening, and the other day I was in the garden and I prickle myself with my cactus, and that inspired a poem for my mother. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna read it because I still haven't memorized the whole thing. She fell in love when she was only 5 years old, as if she was enchanted by a charming prince. But it's been an abusive relationship ever since. My mother has been in a love hate relationship for years with nopales, cactus. Let me explain. There is a big nopalera in my front garden that screams there's Mexicans in this house. I feel proud. It was my mom who planted it. It was a small cutting she stole from the neighbor's yard. Okay, mom, it wasn't stealing. She said she was helping the neighbor prune it. The nopal is a reminder of where we come from. Indigenous, native lands, resilient, beauty, but painful to love it. No matter how much she loves him, no matter how much she sings to him, no matter how much she praises him, he makes it so difficult to love him. Ay, cabrón, ya me espiné otra vez. Pricks, scratches, and bruises she has gotten trying to get a taste of him. She doesn't care. As long as she can give him a piece of him, she keeps nurturing him. I am jealous. No matter how much he stings her, she waters him with love and song. In return, he keeps giving her pieces of life. I am jealous. He makes her cry all over again. Without fail, she is calling me, Janet, es que este cabrón me volvió a espinar. Bring your tweezers and alcohol. Come and rescue me from my pain. I want to rip him off. But she can and won't stop loving him. You see, he's the one who saved her from herself. When anorexia was drowning her body, he pulled her out. It was he who nourished her back to life. At 93 pounds of skin and bones, he kept on loving her, sustaining her, soothing her. It was loving him that kept her sane, singing, watering him with love, gave her purpose. He reminds her of home. He sings memories of love. As he stings her, he reminds her of her own mother falling in love, taking long walks in the darks of her ranchito with nothing more than a knife and a lantern. The moon and the cornfields keep witness to her love, coming back home with her lips stained of red nectar, bringing her back red kisses of tunas and green prickly hearts. My mother fell in love when she was only 5 years old.
Wow. So I'm very interested. Like you were one of the I think I started in 2008, so I started about a year after you. But like at a time, I tried to hit up every venue I could, right? So like
Yes,
you were one of the only people doing poetry on that side of town in Spanglish,
yes.
right? Like it's like like, and so how was that received? Like when you would go to these venues and you'd be like speaking English and all of a sudden you code switch into Spanish. How did a lot of those audiences
You know
what's
what?
their
The places where I used to go, it was there was a very good mixture of black and brown folks and a lot of Chicanos. So some of them didn't speak Spanish, some of them did, but I always felt loved. Like I never felt people being like, "What?" And especially even though I wrote some pieces in Spanish, um, I will bring in enough English for them to catch on. Um, so yeah, I write mostly I write in English, which my mom kind of knocks me upside the head with that. Um, but that's how poetry comes out, and then I revise and rewrite in Spanish because one, I want to honor my mother, I want to honor my ancestors, and bring those poets, those that poetry to life. Like that poem, it's completely in Spanish as well. Um, but yeah, when I used to go to the shows, even though I had the Spanish versions, I would do them in English with bits of Spanish, or certain pieces of the poems in Spanish. And even when people didn't understand it, even when they didn't understand the piece that I said in Spanish, um, I want to say that they were captivated enough to come and ask me, like, "Damn, like, what did you mean with that? Like, I didn't get it." And it was dope. It was dope to receive that. So
Yeah. So yeah, can you tell us about some of the venues that you used to attend at around that time? Like, because a lot of what we're trying to do is capture, the oral history of venues and places and spaces. Some of which are still going, and some of which since closed. But
yeah,
just trying to capture a time and place. So, what were some of the venues that when you started?
I'm gonna try to remember names. I'm really bad with names. But one of them was every Tuesday, Natural High in Culver City, which you used to go to, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, the other one was Mike and Dim Lights on Thursdays. I was there almost every week. We used to take the trip. Judy Holiday and Nikki Black, uh, Tamra, Tamra Blue. We all used to take our little trips all the way to the Inland Empire. Um, and then, so Natural High, um, Mike and Them Lights. Oh, I can't remember. There was one that I used to go to a lot too in downtown on 7th Street. It was like in an alley. And I can't remember that one. I can't remember.
Girl,
Huh?
I don't remember, but I remember there was one in the alley, and I remember seeing Des Hope play there one time.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
But I can't
yeah.
remember the name of it. But it was down the alley, and then like there was like a little shop in there, and that's
Yeah.
actually that's actually
The
Lady Luck.
Poetry Lounge, of course.
Yeah.
I used to go there for Wednesdays. It was for actors, open mic, and then Wednesdays it was Tuesdays. It was for poetry.
Yeah. So did you ever go
So
to the Wednesday? Did you ever go to the Wednesday actor one? Because I knew of
yeah,
it, but I never been there. So tell us about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean, I haven't got a chance to talk to me about that. Tell us what that was like.
It was dope. It was dope because you will have they gave you a chance. Of course, you had to sign up like everybody else does in poetry as well. But they used to give you 3 minutes for monologues, and then 5 minutes if you had a scene with someone else. And we had not stand up, but it's improv. So they used to have improv games, and it was dope. It was just like loosening up. It was pretty dope.
Yeah. So what kind
I
of
miss
listening?
those days.
What kind of they had like a relaxing, like relaxing, like not relax, but like those kind of like actor routines and stuff.
So what?
It was like kind of like in acting. I mean, I haven't done much acting, but like I know some actors, and they were showing me their routines. They would like change their face, and they would like do like. So would you do those like warm up activities?
No, it was more improv. They used to do a lot of improv. They used to have games, and they would just ask people to jump in, and like we would make scenes for days just with improv, and it was super dope. Um, I would recommend that for anybody. Not even like you don't have to be looking for a career in entertainment business. Just taking an acting class, it allows you to like free yourself because everybody is fucking crazy in those rooms. So you kind of allow yourself to do craziness with them, and it's really freeing. Like it really is. It if you're an introvert, like even though it might be hard to do it, it will be an amazing like journey to take
Yeah.
because it makes you get out of your shell.
Yeah. So what would you say about Natural High?
Natural High, it was super dope. I went there for quite a few years, like for a couple years or few years. That is where I met Lee Ballinger, which now I am in a group called Artists United to End Homelessness. And I met super dope people there. They used to have oh, what type of food was that?
Ethiopian.
Ethiopian. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I celebrated my birthday. I celebrated my 31st birthday right there. Um, yeah, just the vibe. It was home. It was home.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little about the work with Lee Ballinger and the artist to what was to end homelessness?
Say that again.
The work with Lee Ballinger, the artists to.
Yeah, so it's called Artists United to End Homelessness, and it's pretty much a group of artists that we are trying to bring shows together to meet and unite with other artists and make a movement uh, to bring housing to LA for you know the the housing crisis in LA is huge, uh, and Lee Ballinger brought it up to me a couple years ago. And when he came to my business, I was so ignorant about, and I feel that there is a lot of ignorance when it comes to homelessness. When he came with me to with that project, I was like, Lee, I can't co-sign something like that. I was like, because I don't know about it. And first of all, I was like, I will be a hypocrite because I dislike the homeless people that are camping like right across my shop, and that's bad for my business, and they don't want help. Like I know a lot of them by name, and I've tried to like direct them to places where they could help them, and they don't want any help and blah 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 blah. And he's like, okay, like he was very calm. He's like, okay. He's like, I got that, Janet. He's like, but he's like, do you understand that homelessness is not only with people that have drug addiction or that abuse alcohol? And I'm like, well, that's most of what I see, Lee. And he's like, no, sweetie, like there is a lot of people that are vets that have mental health problems and they're not being helped. And at the end of the day, not even their family wants them in their house. So they end up homeless. There's a lot of battered women that will prefer to live in the street than to keep getting the abuse from their husband. um, there is a lot of children that are being abused at home physically and mentally, and they prefer to leave. And when he started bringing all this stuff out, I remember I'm like, damn, even though we are blessed to own a body shop, like when we started the body shop, we became homeless. We lost our apartment. I never saw it as homeless because we came and cleaned the little hole that we had in the shop for a room, and that became the place where we lived. We washed our dishes in our bathroom sink, and we had a little one burner in a little hallway um, in the shop. And so I'm like, okay. So I saw my story, and then one of my girlfriends, we hosted her in our shop. She is a veteran, and at one point she was homeless. So she lived with us for like 3 months in that little room. And then my brother, he had drug problems and he lost his body shop, and he lost his house. And when we were blessed already to have our house, thank God, the shop was empty. Well, the shop where the place where we stayed at was empty. So we gave it to him for him to stay there. So I started when Lee started bringing all those things up. Like I started thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I've never thought of my best friend as homeless. I never thought of ourselves as homeless. I never thought of my brothers as homeless. I just thought, oh, we're going through a little rough patch. Like she's going through a little rough patch. She'll be back on her feet. Never thought of her as homeless. And when I realized that, I thought, if I think that I'm smart. You know, I'm a very I think I'm a smart human being. So I'm like, if I think that I'm smart, yet I'm this ignorant to the situation of homelessness, how many other people are out there that are as ignorant as me to this issue? And because of that, I decided to make it my business to spread the word about that. So we do shows, one to openly talk about homelessness, to bring awareness to it, and to gather with other groups, like minded individuals that have a way of getting into the system to make change.
So you I remember there was you. I want to talk about your shop because I know that was a big dream of yours to open up a shop, and
Yes,
you've had one, and you've had it for many years now. But
yes,
so I want kind of the journey of wanting to do it and being able to do it. But before we get to that, I remember having the show at I was part of the first show there for
yes,
what you're describing, yeah. And you were co-hosting with Leon
yes.
from Corazon del Pueblo. Can you talk a little bit about, before we talk about your shop, can you talk a little bit about Corazon del Pueblo and doing poetry
See,
there and
I
what?
forgot about that. Corazon del Pueblo was that was one of my big homes. So yeah, me and Leon, we go way back, uh, probably '07, '08, I would say. Um, that was a big part of my growth, when it came to me bringing my Spanish poems to life, because the demographics in Boyle Heights are more Latinos. Um, Meanwhile, the other places where I was going, it was a lot of Black African Americans. So it was mostly, I was writing to be understood and heard by them. Um, and when I started at Boyle Heights, I saw that, oh, not only do I need to translate these poems for my mother and for my, for the sake of my family, to one day when they read, they can understand exactly where my heart was at. But there's more people that need to hear this. There's even my mother once, because one of my biggest poems, it's about my journey as an immigrant, as an undocumented immigrant, and it was in English. I wrote it in English, and when she asked me why did I wrote it in English, I was like, well, mom, this is for white people to understand it. This is for other ethnicities to see and hear what my truth and my journey has been. Um, but at the same time, she told me, she's like, well, honey, don't you think that your people need to hear it and relate to you and know that somebody speaking for them? Um, and that's when I decided to translate. Almost all my poems are translated into Spanish. So, but yeah, Corazón del Pueblo was a big part in that, and me realizing that it went beyond me, that my poetry was beyond just me expressing, but it was like there's other people that need to uh, relate to you. There's a lot of people that you're speaking for, a lot of voiceless people that they don't speak because they're afraid, that they don't speak because they're scared of what will happen to them if they come out of the shadows. And ever since I remember, I've been a I don't give a fuck kind of person. Um, in school in sixth grade, I was always going to the principal's office because I was fighting. They used to call me a wetback, or they used to call my little friends wetbacks, and I didn't care if I didn't understand or not whatever else they were saying. All I understood was that they were calling me a wetback, and I was gonna kick somebody's ass. So now as a grown up, I was like, my poetry will stand up for other people, and I need them to understand that. So
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about yeah, no, you were you were one of the few poets I really remember that spoke so openly about their status. Document poets at that time. Anyways, I mean, later on it became it became more, with the Dream Act and
right,
with
right, right,
more
right.
activity, more people came out. But like you were doing that, like you were doing that before that. Like you
Yeah,
were.
my first poem about that, when I came out of
Yeah.
the closet, it was in 2005 for the Million Men March. I remember like if it was yesterday. Um, so I used to work at a body shop in Inglewood, a black-owned body shop, and I was the only Latina working there. I was the front desk girl. So whenever there was a tote to be made, I was the one calling the guys. And the day of the march, this black gentleman comes in, and he's like, all these fucking Latinos like making a fuss about the march, like calling off work. He's like, they're just being lazy. And he was like somebody that I held dear to my heart. I used to give him a lot of business. So when he started talking like that, I was like, oh, that shit hurt. He's like, they're just being fucking lazy. Matter of fact, if they don't like shit, they should go back to their country. And I feel so fucking enraged.
Yeah.
I felt so enraged. And I looked at him, and all I could say was, something that was going to sting him back, even though he didn't even know that I was undocumented or anything. I was like, well, one of those fucking illegal aliens is the one that calls you for you to get your money on every single day. So you really need to watch what you say. I was mad. I didn't know how to explain to him. It was just like reacting with the same venom that he was giving, right? And I remember that week, I went out with Nikki Black and Judy out to a venue in Culver City. There was another venue in Culver City I used to go to, and I can't remember the name, but Judy Holiday used to host it. And we went we went out that night, and I was telling them, I'm like, I'm fucking pissed and blah blah blah, and this shit happened and woo woo woo. And then Nikki told me, because I was always asking her for pointers and showing her my poems or whatever. And she said, you want to become a good fucking writer, Janet? Like a real writer? And I was like, fuck yeah. She said, write about that. Stop being fucking mad. Write about it. Tell the world how mad you fucking feel about it. Tell us, why do you feel mad about it? Like, what makes it so personal to you? And I went and I wrote my first, like, real, what I think it was my first real piece. And that's what brought me to get paid for doing poetry. It took me to go to many different universities and speak my truth, which was amazing. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get paid to go and talk shit. Uh, but yeah, so that was the poem that really brought me up on the stage. Like, people started recognizing who Janet Gonzalez was after that poem.
Can you share the poem with us now?
Yeah, let me give me 1 second just so I won't get lost because it's been a long time. It's called Breaking Codes. English I couldn't speak, an alien language to my ears, an ancient puzzle to my eyes, an everyday struggle to survive. Crying and begging to go back to the motherland where no one would stare and laugh at a fourth grader not knowing her ABCs. In English, that is. For I was a brilliant kid in the land where I grew up. In special ed, I don't belong. Can't you see nothing is wrong with me? I just haven't learned to break your language codes. Headaches and tears rolling down, trying to find their path, lost in a world of translation without a map, searching for ways to get by. Now listen, let me undress my mind. Quiero estar desnuda. I want to be naked for the first time in my life. Take off my shoes. Las suelas están gastadas de tanto correr desde el día que llegué to the US of A. You didn't understand? See, that's the way I felt back then. Allow me to break the codes. My soles are warm from running since the day I got to the US of A, the land that used to be ours, the land where my ancestors rest, the land where my parents thought we would have a better life. They didn't expect their little girl will have to run for 19 years straight, never getting a break, never getting close to the finish line. Take off my shirt, it's soaking wet, not from sweat, from tears that pour like falling rain, lágrimas que caen como tormenta y no paran de caer. My jeans are torn, exhausted of jumping fences every day since I was 10. Now listen, this is where the real story begins. Breaking my head every day so I could hablar inglés. Then Alma Avilés became my new name, so I could visit la tierra donde nací, the place where I was born, and be able to come back so I could keep on jumping fences, running, chasing a dream that I could clearly see, yet it's so hard to reach. Fake social security number, alien resident ID, I was buying on 26th Street. Now 18, no signs of having my own identity, a straight student, honor roll smart, hanging with wrong crowds, trying to belong to a world so different than mine. Gangbanging, smoking weed, tearing black parties, coming back home, still breaking codes from English to Spanish. Me in one room listening to oldies, my mom on the other listening to Chente Fernandez. Mom, allow me to break the news. I'm finishing school first in my family, top in my class. Damn, I'm graduating in white. On the other hand, no government aid, no scholarships to go on. Why would they hand money to a mojada, or what you may call a wetback? Columbia College was out of sight, 28,000 a year. My liberal art major was lost even before I arrived to the starting line. So I had to get an 8 to 5 just to get by. Added to my list a part-time job to pay for units for which you pay 45. I had to pay 305. I had to pay 305. Half awake, half asleep, half awake, filling myself with knowledge that no one can take. Now 28, college graduate, now driving, no license. We don't deserve it. But Uncle Sam still fucks us with our taxes. My lease is under my mother's. Why? No credit, no social security number. $500 car payment, 95 Mustang. What's wrong with this picture? Shh. No credit, no social security number, remember? My feet are exhausted and aching. I'm thinking I'm ready to play the system, marry a citizen, 3 months, and I get a green card. Now, what seems so hard to reach, I'll get in a few weeks, like a real estate ID, a chance to have every little meaningless thing for you, but so meaningful to me, like back then, a fucking Blackbuster ID, or my lease being under Janet G, or my cell phone bill coming directly to me, being able to go to the club without having to show a fucking passport ID, coming back home from a long day of work without being paranoid of doing the wrong turn in the wrong street, because for you it's $85, but for me is that plus 3,000 in tickets and maybe becoming a deportee. So today, Today I say, fuck the system that forgot me for 19. Getting married, marriage not consummated, business arrangement, and fuck whoever is judging, for I'm tired of running without a target. Now that you heard my truth, if you still want to judge me, go ahead. Put on my shoes, walk in them for one day, and wonder how the hell did I make it running for 9,945 days and I'm still standing. I'm still standing.
Thank you, Janet. That was really incredible. So where can people follow up with the work you're doing with the artists? And right now I know they might not. I mean, the body shop still open? I mean, are you still taking
Yeah,
clients?
yeah, yeah. My body shop, it's an
Body
essential
shop.
business. So it's open. We are in the heart of South Central, 40th and Broadway. It's called Innovative Auto Collision, from the people to the people. Um, Please come and visit us if you need anything with your vehicle. Mechanical, we don't do like oil changes or none of that. It's more of a collision center. But if you need a good mechanic, holla at your girl. I will connect you with a good mechanic. You need a good electrician. We don't have an electrician, but I will hook you up with an electrician. So yeah, we do collision and auto paint. So if you want to hook up your ride, we have different prices for different budgets. We will work with your budget. And yeah, man, I'm like, it's a business that is not just for us. It gives to the community. We do hold our shows in our space. We have held community center art shows in our space. So yeah, if you have a project and you don't have a space, come and talk to me, especially if it involves art and uplifting our community, uplifting our people. Um, Come and talk to me. We'll make something happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jen. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you. You guys could follow me on Instagram. At my personal page is Janet JANET_GK. My auto shop is IAC 323. And in Facebook, you can find us at Innovative Auto Collision. For my personal page, you could look for me as Janet Gonzalez. And yeah, man, I hope to catch you on the next venue once this is all open. Um, I pray that everybody stays safe, everybody stays sane. And one of the things that I could advise people is write, write. Even if nobody will ever hear what you write, is for yourself, for your self journey in self healing. So thank you so much for having me, Matt. You're a fucking amazing poet. I seriously look up to you. I have to try to slow my brain down when you speak because there's so much good shit coming out of your mouth that it's just like and you go fast. You go fast. It's almost like you're rapping, and I'm like, Matt, slow down. I want to catch everything. So I think that your poetry definitely needs to be on replay. So we could catch all the good stuff that you say. But I seriously admire you from the minute that I heard you speak. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it.
All right, baby. Good night.